Hello and welcome. You're watching News9 Live with me, Neha Khanna. On the show, we are going to discuss American politics. Age is just a number, they say. Is it though? How old is too old when it comes to running a country? That is now a critical question in American politics, with the presidential election a little over a year away and the present incumbent, Joe Biden, and former President Donald Trump being the primary contenders for the White House at this point in time. It's quite simple. Biden, at the ripe old age of 80, is already the oldest president in American history. His Republican rival, Trump, isn't far behind at 76 years. And both these men have thrown their hat into the presidential ring for a second time, hoping to win the Democratic and Republican Party nominations for 2024. On the show today, we're analyzing the scenario of two old white men dominating the US presidential race next year. Biden would be 82 on election day in 2024 and 86 years old at the end of his second presidential term if he were to win it. His approval ratings remain low by historical standards, and according to an NBC News poll, 70% of Americans and over 50% of Democrats believe that Biden should not run again, primarily on account of his age. Of course, what could work to his advantage is the fact that Biden at the moment is not facing any serious Democratic rivals for the party's candidature. Let's now turn our attention to Trump. As we said, the man is 76 years old. Many Republicans have concerns about his electability, as the former president, who was recently arrested, is embroiled in multiple court cases for alleged fraud, tax evasion. There is the murky Stormy Daniels hush money case, even a rape case against him. Now contrast this with some of America's most successful presidents: Franklin D. Roosevelt, John F. Kennedy, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton. They were all in their 40s or 50s when they assumed office. Let's now also take a look at America's demographics. The country has a sizable population of elderly citizens. Nearly half of the population is non-white, and this number is growing. Of course, there is Vice President Kamala Harris, America's first woman vice president and first vice president of color, who offers hope for diversity in the top echelons of power in the United States. And it is equally true that the 118th US Congress is the most racially and ethnically diverse in history, with 133 members who identify as Black, Hispanic, Asian, American, Indian, Alaska Native or multiracial. The question we're asking, though, is this: how will Americans, especially the youth, see two old white men running for the highest office in the United States, and indeed the most powerful office in the world?
Yeah, I know. I just announced my re-election campaign. Some of you scooped that I'd announced in the video. But really, you really all thought in your heart that I just blurted out, didn't you? And look, I get that age is a completely reasonable issue. It's in everybody's mind. And everyone, by everyone I mean the New York Times. Headline: Biden's advanced age is a big issue. Trump's, however, is not.
But when you're running for president, you think at least one time you'd get up and say, I'm running for president. Where am I going? Where the hell am I going? I want to get out. Oh, no, over there, over there. Thank you.
All right, let's go across to our guest. Joining me on the show, Ambassador Deepak Vora, former diplomat and India's ambassador to many countries, including Sudan, and Rabindra Sachdeva, president of the Image India Institute. All right, Ambassador Vora, let me start with you. As I said, we all know that President Biden is the oldest American president in history. He is 80 years today. He will be 82 on election day in 2024, and if he does win another term, at the end of it, he will be 86 years old. The man who seems to be his closest rival, at least at this point in time, is Donald Trump, who's only 4 years behind in age at 76. The question I want to ask you is, sir, that even though America does have a sizable elderly population, how do you think the more than 50% non-white population and a vast majority of young Americans are likely to view this White House race, which is, it seems, going to be dominated by two old white men? How is that likely to play out in 2024?
Well, thank you very much, ma'am. You put it across so brilliantly. No wonder you are one of our best anchors and your network is so popular. Thank you so much. You put it well. You know, may I just put it, it's the battle of the oldies. Neither of them is a goldie. Now, one of these fellows, I call him Buddhu, and that's Biden the Buddhu. And the other fellow is Trump the terrorist. Now, these two characters is going to be a rematch. I've been in touch with several of my friends, and in the dozens in the United States. None, and I repeat, none of them wants this rematch. There are a lot of people who, despite the numbers, say the economy is tanking. There are people who say that Biden has taken us to war, practically, in Ukraine. We've never even heard of the Ukraine. There are others who say that this old man falls asleep. He doesn't know what he's talking about. All our former friends used to love us, even though to some extent he managed to revitalize the NATO alliance. On the other hand, Donald Trump, I call him Donald Trump, the geopolitical arsonist, he is loved by a sizable section of his party and hated by the others. You love him, you hate him, you can't ignore the man. And he's already announced that he is running again. Now, both of them. What does this mean? That there are no young, inspiring challengers. What's happened to the John Kennedys of the world? What's happened to the Barack Obamas of the world? America is not a society where the median age is 49 like it is in Japan. India is 29. America is in the mid-30s. There should be a lot of young people. Are they sick of politics? Are they tired with the political system that they don't want to come in? I mean, when I was there, ma'am, posted in the United States, there was another old geezer chap called Ronald Reagan. But he was very good. He was avuncular. He was an uncle. And he won the election quite handily. Today, I feel young people are not interested. They've had it. There are far too many other things. There's joblessness. There's rising prices. There's social collapse. And every time, we read stories of a young girl pulling into the wrong driveway and a chap comes out and shoots her. There's economic collapse. We are seeing the difficulty. There's political slanging. I was there 4 years ago, ma'am, and I'm going to the US tomorrow. There were 4 years ago when Joe Biden and Donald Trump had that debate. Trump kept interrupting. And Joe Biden said to him, "Shut up, man. That's not the kind of thing you expect in the United States. You might expect it in our neighboring country that fights with us." So we're going to see a repeat. It's a repeat that no one wants. Trump has repeated the claim that the election last time was stolen from him. You recall that the 6th January riots, the storming of Capitol Hill was a direct result of that. I don't know what's going to happen. Trump has so many cases, as you rightly pointed out, rape and fraud and whatever. Joe Biden, on the other hand, the Hunter Biden episode is not yet over. So neither of them is totally clean. I suspect that the average American, if there is such a thing, the average Joe, he's just about had it. He says, look, how does it matter? America is America. America will bounce back. It has this ability to self-correct. But today, the vast majority of Americans believe the country the two men led back to back is on the wrong track. A recent NBC News survey says 70% of the respondents felt Joe Biden shouldn't run. 60% said Trump shouldn't run. So I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be interesting to watch how America reinvents itself from a young, dynamic nation. That was America's strength, from the time of its independence, to one that is run by geriatrics who can barely stand straight. Be interesting to see what happens.
Well, you've made a series of very interesting and important points, but I must say the way you framed this contest, Buddhu versus arsonist, that does sound very, very scary. I think Americans should be worried after listening to you, Ambassador Vora. But Rabinder Sachdeva, let me come to you at this point. Biden's approval ratings are anyway historically low, by historical standards, pretty low. And according to an NBC News poll, 70% of Americans and over 50% of Democrats believe that Biden should not run for office again because of his age. There are jokes that are made constantly about Biden tripping, Biden nodding off during official events, Biden forgetting names sometimes of his own White House officials, mistaking Russia for Iraq. It's a long list. The question, as Ambassador Vora rightly puts it, is America no longer capable of producing, Kennedys and Barack Obamas anymore? What happened? Why is there not a single challenger, for example, from the Democratic Party to President Joe Biden with the election 1.5 years away?
Well, thank you, Neha. A great, great question. And of course, nobody can beat the eloquence of Ambassador Vora. A couple of things. One, as is coming out apparent, in neither of the parties, the present candidates are the preferred candidates. Even in the Republicans, by the way, Republicans are having some, manthan, some chaos, turmoil within the Republican Party also. Within the Republican Party also, there is a good section of people moving away or thinking that, is this the future of the Republican Party that is led by Trump? So those are questions out there on the Republican side. Similarly, on the Democrat side, there are questions about Biden, not about his policies. The Democrat side who are thinking that Biden should not run are more worried about the fact that he will be old, and since he will be old, the Republicans will pounce upon him and defeat him using this tool that Biden is old and senile, and then you'll have, in 2 years, maybe he'll be in a hospital and Kamala Harris will take over. So the Democrats who are worried about Biden becoming the president again are worried on this count. Two counts: that one, Biden could lose given his age, and second, the fact that Kamala Harris could be the acting president if Biden is unwell, that these two factors will be played up by the Republicans. So that's what the Democrats are afraid. That's why they are thinking and not wanting Biden to run again, but there's nobody out there in the field other than a few. This thing. On the Republican side, it is about, yes, Trump has the momentum and Trump has the, charisma and a lot of folks behind his MAGA campaign, but there are large chunks of the Republican segment who think that, is this the way we want the Republican Party to go? That is with a Trump. So both sides have their handicaps in a game of golf, you could say. At the same time, these are the two presumptive candidates right now. So it could well become, but don't rule it out, there could be some wild card. Either side, by the way, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the election is still 1.5 years away. Yes.
Yeah. And 1.5 years is a long time in America. And remember one more thing which will become big by the time the elections, forget the elections, the primaries come around this time next year, will be the war in Ukraine. Now, Trump has staked a position wherein he says that we want to get our people back and no more aid money to Ukraine. Okay. Versus Biden, who says we have to continue our engagement, commitment, etc., etc. In about a year's time from today, actually, by now, the next year, the campaign will be hot and heated. The big debate which could come around in the US presidential could be about Ukraine, that do we continue solidly with Ukraine, or do we kind of, America always wants to be isolationist, why should we be like Afghanistan?
Yes.
Now that will create very, serious rifts, because Republicans in any case are talking about overall, the spectrum of Republicans are questioning the aid to Ukraine. Biden is for it and in American interest. Now, I'm a co-founder of a lobby in the US. We do this, my colleagues. We are also trying to figure out, what is going to happen. Though our committee, we are absolutely non-partisan or bipartisan, we encourage any Indian American candidate to participate. Which brings me to a question which you were earlier asking: who could be the JFK or Obama if they could be? And where is the younger generation? Have they lost hope in politics? I actually think different, if I may. I think within America, there's a lot of public participation and will and interest to participate in public affairs, including amongst the Indian American community, right?
Okay.
Now, yeah, sure. I mean, these are the folks who are active and would want, but yes, to the point, a vast majority of America doesn't care what happens 30 miles beyond their town,
Yes.
But at the same time, there are more numbers and these divisions and the interest groups, be it abortion, for example, right?
Yes.
Be it
I take your point. I take your point, Mr. Sachdeva. There will be a whole host of issues which will be important in that election, whether it is the Ukraine war or abortion or inflation, other economic challenges. But we just want to keep our focus on the candidates on this show. So let me go back to Ambassador Vora at this point. Ambassador Vora, at the moment, it does look like Biden has no challenger. But there is Kamala Harris, who is again going to be on the ticket. She, as I mentioned, is the first, as we know, woman vice president of the US, first woman vice president of color. She, brings in that diversity in the top echelons of power in the United States. And then there are many who wonder if Biden wins a second consecutive term, whether we could see Kamala Harris taking over from him as president mid-term. I wonder what your thoughts on that are. On the other hand, while Trump may have his solid support base, his MAGA supporters who continue to stand by him and believe that he's God's gift to America and the world, let's not forget there is at least one rising star in the Republican Party, and that is the Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. He appeals to the far right. He is very conservative in his stand on most issues, and he is much younger than Trump, and he appeals to those who are skeptical about Trump. I wonder what your thoughts on those two issues and these two individuals are.
First, you're talking about the lady who's the present vice president?
Kamala Harris, yes.
Yeah, well, let's pronounce her name correctly. She calls herself Kamala Harris, not Kamala
I don't have an American accent, so I will say it the Indian way.
Neither do I, but I've heard her saying, I'm Kamala Harris. All right, you're Kamala Harris, so we call you that. She's totally boring, has absolutely nothing that could excite people. I don't mean physically, but excite them mentally, intellectually, culturally, emotionally. Nothing. She's very staid, she's very quiet, she doesn't talk very much about her Indian heritage, although of late she did make a few statements which could enthuse the very powerful Indian diaspora in that country. She prefers to talk about her African origins and so on. So I don't think she's done anything. And if she were to, if for example, something happens to Joe Biden and he suddenly decides, buddy, I'm not contesting, and Kamala Harris gets the ticket. Oh, no, there's nothing that she has done that the voters are going to say, look, let's give her a chance. The other hand, you've talked about this young fellow, this governor. Ma'am, it's interesting, but really the present mood in the United States, from what I can gauge, and Mr. Sachdev's knowledge is infinitely superior to mine, is that the election is about nothing, it's about Donald Trump. They don't care about what's happening in Ukraine, what's happening to the economy, what's happening to Russia, what's happening here, there, everywhere, what's happening in the Sudan. Is it, do we want Donald Trump again or don't we? So he's going to be the focal point of the election next year. Is that a good thing? I don't know. The election will be fought on personalities, not on performance, not on policies.
Okay. The election, you say, will be fought on personalities, but Robindra Sachdeva, are we missing one crucial point here? Donald Trump may be a former president of the United States. He may have launched his bid for a re-election to the White House, But we don't know if he's going to eventually win the official Republican Party nomination. We still have a long way to go before that decision is taken. Remember, there is already Ron DeSantis, whose name has been doing the rounds. He's not officially launched his bid, but most believe he will throw his hat into the ring. Nikki Haley has. Some might argue she doesn't stand much of a chance. Then there are other names also, such as Liz Cheney, again may not be much of a threat to Trump, but we don't know who's going to win the official Republican Party nomination. And let's not forget, even though Ambassador Vora seems to think that most MAGA supporters don't care at all, but the Republican Party may have to take into account that the former president is mired in multiple court cases of alleged tax evasion, fraud. He was arrested recently, taking home classified documents, the Stormy Daniels case, and most recently a rape case as well. Do you not believe the Republican Party will be concerned about these issues?
A great point, Neha, and amazing points by Ambassador. Absolutely, yes. That's why, when we started the discussion, I also said, it's a battle for the soul of the Republican Party. One. Secondly, yes, as Ambassador says, this election would be about Trump. Okay, and especially if Trump ends up being the candidate or the Republican. Till the point of time, the Republican Party does not announce its candidate or arrive at, which would be around this time next year, right? Till then, definitely all of this 24 is about Trump and the anti-Trump. Do you want Trump or do you not want Trump? Once the Republican Party nominates whosoever, be it Ron DeSantis, by the way, I think DeSantis' chances are less. Trump has ridiculed his image, calling him meatballs, whatever he got to see, the memes which are out there, etc. But sure,
Trump,
he could be.
Trump ridicules everyone. Trump ridicules Biden all the time. Biden still became president.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, exactly. That's my point. So that's what I'm saying, that, DeSantis may not be, but there could be some other. Nikki Haley could go a bit far. She's kind of positioning herself. And actually, she could end up becoming the running mate to Trump. Remember that, who his running mate would be. So this battle, till the point right now, till the point Republican Party around this time next year officially declares its nominee, is about Trump and anti-Trump. Once the Republicans declare their candidate, be it Trump or whosoever, then it could take a different form. Now, coming here to this Democrat side, the Democrat side is whatever it be, Biden has built up a big tent in a way, if you could say that, wherein he's been able to, assuage or bring together various streams and, left and more left and liberals, etc., under this tent. So as of this point, there is no seeming challenger to Biden. Within the Democrat Party, you have Robert Kennedy, but he has a huge unscientific image. He was protesting the COVID vaccines. Now that may be another debate or discussion. So within the Democrat Party, probably it seems that Biden will be going ahead and could be the nominee. The chances are high. Republican Party, Trump, yes, but Trump chances are lower than Biden's as the official candidate of the Republicans. Now that said, coming to your old basic question, that oldies, etc., I think that generally the world, from the world's perspective, it will be a Biden presidency would mean business as usual. Whatever is going on, we have a reasonable flavor of the way US foreign policy is going. If Biden becomes the president in 24, the world will see more of this, of what we are seeing right now. Trump, if he assumes presidency, will be a disruptor. In any case, he is a disruptor, right? So that would be the impact on global affairs. But within America, but yes, you're right. And as a discussion, one big, question mark on Biden's candidacy or ticket is that his, mate would be Kamala Harris, and Kamala Harris has been getting, you can say, perhaps bad press within the US or within the Democrat Party also. But remember that she is a smart lady. She has worked her way up. She was the senator from California. It's no easy job to be a senator. If you tell me that she only smiles and laughs and gets elected, there's zillions of people who do that. She was an attorney general of California. Then she became the senator of California. So she has several amazing talents due to which she is where she is. But
Yes.
what will happen? The Republicans would, sow the seeds of discord or confusion by, of course, logically
Saying that a
saying that,
vote for Biden will actually be a vote for Kamala Harris, something that
yes,
is
yeah.
likely to be not so palatable to a lot of conservative Americans. I take your
Sure.
point, though, even though you believe that Kamala Harris should not be counted out just yet. Of course, you
Uh-huh.
represent the Indian American community, and there was a lot of excitement here in India when a woman of Indian descent became the first vice president, or the first woman vice president of the United States. But Ambassador Vora, let me come back to you at this point. I want you to weigh in for a moment on the demographics of the United States of America. We mentioned earlier how half of the population is non-white. I want you to look at the composition of the current US Congress. The 118th Congress is actually the most racially and ethnically diverse in American history. 133 members identify as Black, Hispanic, Asian, American Indian, Alaska Native and multiracial, and these lawmakers make up a quarter of the US Congress. To add to that, you have Kamala Harris, who is the vice president. But going back to my original question, when you look at these two old, white, doddering men running for the highest office, the question is, my apologies to both of them, the question is, do they truly represent today's America?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question, ma'am. And they are both doddering. Elections in America are about the future, not about the past. Biden and the other character, whatever his name is, Donald Trump, they are both the past. You've raised this question of diversity in the United States. And who's the original American? The original Americans are running around in the reservations with feathers in their hair. America is a nation of immigrants. We know that. That's the old story. But what is true, and it remains true even today, has been for many years, when there are congressional elections, race, ethnicity, or background matters. But in presidential elections, the jury is still out on that one. People would vote the Americans, because even those who've come from Africa or from Asia or from Latin America, they become Americans. We have this great melting pot concept, unlike India where we have the salad bowl. You become then what is called the all-American boy. So they would vote for whoever they think will bring them stability in their jobs, more money in the bank, better food, lower inflation, gas prices should be much lower, homes should be more easily available, and America should again be the numero uno in the world. That is what matters to them, not what the fellows' views are on this, that, and the other. Immigration might be an issue, but it's not such a big issue. In reality, they would be looking for where's the beef? And whoever is able to tell them that, buddy, I'm able to put more beef on your plate than anybody else, and the other character who's a scoundrel, who's a scumbag, who's this, that, and the other, they would tend to vote for him. I think America is, it's being dragged kicking and screaming into 2024. But I have a lot of faith. I've lived in that country. Both my kids, we've gifted to the United States. I have no doubt in my mind that America will self-correct and America will make choices that the world would want it to make. It has always done so. They may mess around, etc., etc. But ma'am, let me put it to you very bluntly, and I speak this from my heart. Ye dil ki baat hai. Whenever I see that statue in New York Harbor, holding aloft her lamp, give me your poor, your oppressed, your downtrodden, your tempest-tossed. I shall take care of them, for I hold my lamp beside the Golden Gate. Brings a lump to my throat. That is the America we all love, man. And I think that America will be back again.
I agree with you. I agree with you, Ambassador, wholeheartedly. At the end of the day, this is the world's oldest democracy. It is the most vibrant democracy in the world that we're talking about. And you talked about course correction. I may sound prejudiced saying this. I would say America messed up in 2016 and it course corrected in 2020. And that is my personal opinion. Clearly, Trump is not going to love my saying that. But as we wrap up this discussion, Ambassador Vora, I'm going to ask you and Rabinder Sachdeva one question. I don't know, Ambassador, if you are a Democrat or a Republican at heart in terms of your values, ideals, and ideology, but if you had a vote in the United States of America, and since you're not a fan of either quote-unquote Buddhu or quote-unquote arsonist. I want to put you on the spot and ask you this question. If you had a vote in the United States of America and you had to pick one of these two men, who would it be?
You can find out about that in the declaration I make after I come out of the voting booth. You'll know who I voted for. The big news channels will tell you who's going to win. You don't expect me to answer that question seriously, do you? I've been in diplomacy.
Come on, you're a former diplomat. Of course you can.
Well, let's just say we'll vote for the better candidate and may the best guy win.
May the best guy win. All right, Rabinder Sachdeva. You mentioned, I know, that the Indian American community is non-partisan or bipartisan, but would you want to share with us your thoughts if you had to pick between one of these two men? Who would it be and why?
Honestly, I think that generally I would have been tilting towards Biden in the overall perspective, because Trump has been too much of a maverick, too much of a disturber and unpredictable. But in this case now, I think I'll wait for the Republican candidate to be declared and the Democrat, which would be Biden, of course, and Republican to be declared, and then I'll take a call. Because I think that, Biden is taking the country very well, but Biden is very much in a Cold War mindset. Forget everything else. I'm talking from a geopolitical context. Biden is doing amazingly well for within America. I will vote for Biden any day within America. He is not dividing America. Trump is dividing. And what Trump is doing is has led to racism and white extremism within America. There are multiple things of Trump and Republican Party. So within America, yes, I would look at Biden. But see, I'm a global citizen, so to say, we all are. And let's say if we look at global affairs, in that case, I would probably look to see, who the Republican candidate is, because the way Biden and American foreign policy is going right now, sure, America is a huge, the bestest version of democracy in the world today, right?
Yes.
Without doubt, I would say. Right?
Yes.
But the way they are going, it is, you see, it's one thing. I have a good friend who's very good with me, but who goes around and creates a mess all around me.
No,
like,
I completely agree with you. We all
That's
agree America is the most vibrant and robust democracy in the world, but there is no doubt that it is a more deeply divided nation, a more polarized nation today than it has ever been, and that is Donald Trump's legacy. Ambassador Vora wants to come in here. Sir, I'll give you the last word.
Sorry, Joe Biden karta hai man ki baat, Donald Trump karta hai dil ki baat. Take your choice.
All right. Now, is that the ambassador telling us who he prefers of the two? The big question still remains, is it going to be a rematch between Joe Biden and Donald Trump in 2024? Those elections are still a year and a half away, and a lot can happen between then and now. But one thing that we can be sure of is that it's going to be a fascinating election. All right, Ambassador Deepak Vora, Rabinder Sachdeva, thank you for joining me on the show. It's been a fascinating discussion. It's a wrap. Thanks to the viewers for watching.